Thank you. Hello, everyone. This is your Spanish interpreter. Just letting you know that we have simultaneous Spanish interpretation for this meeting as well as ASL. So if you would like to access the ASL interpretation, once the interpretation is activated, if you're joining with that computer, you'll see a globe at the bottom of your screen. Please select the globe and select ASL. And if you're joining with a cell phone or a tablet, your options will be a bit different. You need to tap your screen and find the menu with the three dots, either on top or at the bottom of your device, and select language interpretation, select ASL, and select done. Now I'm going to give my instructions in Spanish. Buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos. Queremos dejarles saber que tenemos interpretación simultánea al español para esta reunión. Si ustedes desean escuchar la junta en español y se unieron con una computadora, una vez que la interpretación sea activada, van a ver el icono de un mundo en la parte de abajo de su pantalla. Seleccionen ese icono y seleccionen español. Si ustedes ingresaron con un teléfono móvil o con una tableta, sus opciones se van a ver un poco diferentes. Van a tocar su pantalla y van a buscar el menú de los tres puntitos que está ya sea en la parte de arriba o abajo de su dispositivo. Seleccionen interpretación de idioma, después seleccionen español y por último el botón que diga done, listo o finalizado. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much. We can start interpretation.
Wonderful, thank you. And good afternoon and welcome to the Altadena Community Meeting. We have a few short presentations and then we will answer questions that have been pre-submitted by community members. Zoom attendees can submit questions in real time using the Zoom Q&A function on your screen. Agency representatives are on the Zoom meeting responding live. Note that questions submitted on the YouTube live chat will not be answered. Supervisor Barger, the floor is yours.
Thank you for joining us. I'm glad that the rebuilding is officially underway in Altadena. Just this morning, I had the opportunity to personally visit one of my constituents' properties in your community. The property owner opted into the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers debris removal program, which completed their work a few weeks ago. This morning, construction crews and her architect were on site breaking ground. She is one of only 4 Altadena residents who have received their rebuilding permits for LA County. I want you to know that I am closely tracking the county's pace of issuing rebuilding permits. Seeing the rebuilding progress today firsthand, I was incredibly moved, but we must do more and we must do it faster. That is why I plan to introduce another motion next Tuesday that would be a pilot program to allow for self-certification during the permitting process. My goal is simple: speed up approvals and help the reconstruction of your houses get underway faster. At my request, our county CEO is also working with county departments on the establishment of a united permitting authority. The county CEO is also working on procuring technological solutions such as AI that will be combined with our streamlining efforts and the new unified permitting authority. I am confident that this approach will reduce the timeline for permit approvals, along with reduced staff time and costs for reviews. My motion will also have the county's permitting departments reevaluate their previous cost estimates for permit and plan check fees. Once we're equipped with that revised number, I plan to have the county CEO identify funding to partially or fully offset those fees for Eaton fire rebuilds. In addition to helping individual homeowners, I'm focused on rebuilding the critical infrastructure that the Eaton fire destroyed. We are laying the groundwork for an enhanced infrastructure financing district, better known as an EIFD, to help modernize and strengthen our local roads, utilities, and public facilities. I'm working closely with our state legislative partners to make this district a reality. Finally, I know many of you have had questions about postal services. I've been working hard to engage a representative from the U.S. Postal Service, and I'm pleased to share that we expect to have someone join us at the next Monday's meeting to provide an update. I want to thank you for your resilience and for standing strong together. We are making real progress, and I will continue to fight for you every step of the way. Thank you again for being here today.
Thank you. And our first presenter is Colonel Avichal from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. Please go ahead, Colonel.
Okay, thank you. And thank you, Supervisor, for allowing me to speak here today. I'll keep my portion pretty brief today, and then I will hand it over to Dr. Corey Koger, who's also from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, and he will speak specifically about our operations at the Altadena Golf Course. So in terms of general overview of our operations right now, we have about 5,500 total properties with the right of entry. That's what we consider our total workload for private property debris removal. And then in terms of cleared properties, those in which we've removed the hazard, the fire ash debris, we have just completed just over 3,300 properties at that stage in the process. And then 1,500 properties where the rights of entry have been returned back to the county. In terms of crew numbers, we are holding steady at 129 debris removal crews in Altadena. We've been at that crew number for about 2 weeks. And on average, we're clearing about 68 properties per day. So again, over the next few months, we will continue to operate at the similar speed, and you'll see a good amount of work taking place all throughout Altadena. One other quick item I would like to talk about is we have been getting some additional property types through FEMA. These are mission assignments that we have been getting through FEMA. So just give a quick update on that. So certain Altadena parks, so Farnsworth Park, Charles White Park, and the Eaton Canyon Nature Center have been added to our workload, as well as Lifeline Fellowship, Pasadena Jewish Temple. Those two have also been added to our workload, and the Altadena Senior Center as well. So again, we are moving expeditiously, but doing so safely. At this point, I will turn it over to Dr. Koger.
Good afternoon. My name is Corey Koger. I'm a chemist and toxicologist with the Army Corps of Engineers, and understanding the concern about air quality associated with the temporary debris site at the Altadena Golf Course, we wanted to present some of the data and an explanation of what we're seeing out at the temporary debris site. So if you could please put up the figure that we sent earlier. So there's a couple of things we want to note. So the large blue line sort of on the right-hand side that goes completely across the graph. To the left is air quality monitoring that was done prior to doing any work at the site. And so anything to the right was air quality associated with work going on, or it was after work had started. And just want to note that air quality fluctuates and will fluctuate throughout the Los Angeles basin, and there are days of poor air quality. And there's not really much we can do about that. What our goal and effort is to do is to have a minimal impact on air quality in the region. The last thing we want to do is have any more negative impacts to this community. We've been through enough, and that's the last thing that we want to do. Of particular note, if you look at the sort of dotted blue line at the top of that graph, that represents the humidity in the air. And sometimes the monitors respond to that and doesn't really have anything to do with air quality. It just happens to be that the droplets are about the same size as the dust we're measuring. The other thing to pay attention to is the dashed blue line that's sort of within the data on that graph. That represents the air quality as it stands without any impacts from the temporary debris site. And our data basically tracks with either the ambient air and or the humidity in the air. And I think that the thing to note on all of this is on the far left side, that's what we call the PM 2.5 concentration. That's the measure of potential impacts. The air standard is 35, and for all of the work, either pre or post processing at the site, we have been below that 35 microgram per meter standard. So I just want to assure you that that's the goal is to make sure we have healthy air quality. And this facility has allowed us to reduce the number of trucks that have been in the community by about 300 to 400. The facility is permitted. It was permitted through the local enforcement agency and Cal Recycle, and public health has actually inspected it and found no violations and no areas of concern, and will continue to evaluate and inspect our site throughout the use. With that, I will end my presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that. And next we will turn over to the Department of Public Health and the Air Quality Management District. Dr. Quick and Payam, when you're available, please go ahead and unmute yourself to begin. Okay, I see you both. Payam, you can go ahead and take it from here.
Sounds good. And good afternoon, everyone. Thanks so much for having me. I'm going to share my screen. All right. My name is Payam Pakbin, and I am the Atmospheric Measurements Manager at the South Coast Air Quality Management District. And I oversee our agency's community air monitoring program and coordinate air monitoring activities in our incident response program. Today, I wanted to provide an overview of air monitoring efforts in Altadena conducted by South Coast AQMD to basically assess the air quality impacts of post-Eaton fire, fire debris removal, and cleanup activities. I will also provide a summary of results so far and provide a link to where you can access all of this information yourself. We conducted similar type of air monitoring in areas impacted by Palisades fire, but my presentation today is only focused in our air monitoring activities in areas impacted by Eaton fire. So our post-fire air monitoring activities started with phase 1, which was done by conducting mobile monitoring surveys. You see the mobile platform that was used for this purpose. Basically, these surveys were done using 2 separate mobile platforms, which are basically a vehicle equipped with a suite of very advanced air monitoring instruments that can measure different types of air pollutants at a very high time resolution. And this allows us to drive the vehicle in the community and take those measurements in a block-to-block and hyper-local manner. The measurements were done in 2 different days, once on January 31st and once on February 19th. And this was to measure air toxic metals, including arsenic and lead, as well as volatile organic carbons, including gaseous air toxics. The main objectives were to do these surveys to identify pollutants of concern, to determine whether the air toxic levels were elevated, and also to identify areas with elevated levels of those air pollutants. This basically helps us to determine the potential air toxic exposure concerns, and more importantly, helped us to identify locations for setting up temporary stationary monitoring sites. Basically, this type of measurements only provides a snapshot of concentration levels, and measurements are not done long enough at each of these locations because we're driving through the community. So the purpose is not to assess the health impacts, but it can help us identify air pollution hotspots and help us identify locations for long-term measurements that could help better understand the exposure risk. So basically on the map on the right side, you can see the concentration levels or concentration map. This is just showing the concentrations for methane. Methane is not an air toxic. We did see some hotspots of methane during the first survey conducted on January 31st, possibly from gas leaks, and this was communicated to SoCalGas, and there were some mitigation measures that were done. All of the results for air toxics, including VOCs, gaseous air toxics, and also air toxic metals were within background levels on January 31st. We did a follow-up measurement on February 19th. The levels of methane that were observed during the first survey were back to background, which indicates the mitigation measures done by SoCalGas were able to resolve the gas leaks. During the second run, we did some elevated levels of lead, arsenic, chromium, and nickel. These levels were just elevated over background, and this is basically a piece of information that helps us to identify which locations to conduct our stationary measurements. This second map basically shows the concentration levels and also some of the hotspots for lead. As I mentioned, some of the blocks within the Altadena area indicated some elevations over the background level for lead. These are basically some of the areas we focused on for establishing monitoring stations. And that takes us to the second stage, which is to conduct a temporary stationary air monitoring. The placement of this monitoring will basically informed by the mobile monitoring surveys that we conducted, but we also took into account the cleanup activities, locations that required a lot of cleanup activity, the sensitive receptors where the residential areas, the schools and public areas are located, and also the general wind condition to make sure that we're capturing any resuspension of dust and ash from the cleanup and from the debris removal activities. The air monitoring, the stationary air monitoring focused on toxic metals, including lead and arsenic, but also many other metals, as well as asbestos, and also continuous measurements of particulate matter. The toxic metals and asbestos are taken through a 24-hour sample that is collected throughout the day, once every 3 days, and then the sample is retrieved, taken to the lab, and we look at the air toxic metals and asbestos content. But all the sites also do continuous measurements of PM2.5 and PM10. These are hourly, and the concentration levels are available on our website in real time. So far, and from the beginning of these measurements in February, all of air toxic metals, including lead and arsenic, have been within background levels, with just a couple of exceptions. 2 air toxic metals, selenium and beryllium, were slightly above background levels, but significantly below the health threshold established by OEHA, which is the Office of Environmental Health Hazard Assessment, Cal OEHA. The asbestos was detected only at 2 sites on March 5th and at 1 site on April 7th. All of the other samples so far have been non-detected. The continuous PM2.5 and PM10 hourly data so far have been below the federal standard. We have 3 sites, and we have created a data dashboard. It's an interactive data dashboard where you can access all of the air monitoring data at 3 sites that have been established in Altadena area. By clicking on this map, you can access the data at each of the sites. This includes the continuous PM data. It also compares the concentration levels with federal standards. It also, you can select the metal of interest and then look at the concentration levels, which compares them with the typical ambient levels. One of the sites is within half a mile from the golf course, which is the staging area. So like if you're interested to look at the concentration levels there, you can choose the Eaton monitoring site 1. That would give you access to PM2.5, PM10, all the metals, as well as the asbestos information. We've also have a general 2025 wildfire response webpage. This also includes additional information like summary of activities, the monitoring data so far, information about the regional air monitoring, some of the precautions for local residents, and some additional resources. You can access this website through the link on this site, and as well as the QR codes that I showed earlier in this slide deck. And that concludes my presentation. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Payam. And next we'll move to the assessor's office. We have Scott Thornberry. Please go ahead, Scott.
Thank you very much. Do we have the PowerPoint?
Yes, it will be coming up shortly.
Okay. Well, thank you for allowing me to speak. I wanted to talk about a little bit about the assessment process and the timing of that. There was a question in the Q&A I saw a few minutes ago that did ask, what's the timing of the assessment process for the assessor? And I want to let you know that we have already begun the assessments, and I will fill you in on a little bit more details as we go through the short presentation. Next slide, please. Okay, we are looking at 23,000, more than 23,000 parcels. And the way we are doing so proactively, you can file a claim for misfortune and calamity, but we are looking at the properties, if they fall into one of these three categories, either they were within the original CAL FIRE burn perimeters, or they received a CAL FIRE damage assessment, or if you did file a claim for misfortune and calamity, we are considering all of those properties. Now, keep in mind that even though you have these three categories, if your parcel was outside the burn perimeter, you did not file a claim, and the CAL FIRE said there was no damage, we just do not have enough information at this point to do reassessment. So it's important that you do file a claim if you had fire damage and you fall into one of those categories. Next slide, please. So the good news is, to date, we have completed 17,000 assessments to reflect the damage from the 2025 wildfires. That includes 8,000 parcels, a little bit more, actually, about 8,000 parcels in the Eaton that were damaged in the Eaton fire. Next slide. Now we are sending out, most of these we already have sent out what we call a notice of assessed value change. There's a sample of that on your screen right now. Some of you, we did the assessments, about 3,000, 4,000 parcels. We did the assessments last week. And so you may not have received this assessment, but I want to talk a little bit about this notice of assessed value change and what it's saying, what it means, and to address any questions I think that you're going to have about it. First, I'd like to point out that it does say this is a change due to a misfortune, calamity, or disaster value correction. And it is for it's a corrected assessment roll for the year 2024. And what that means is the year that we are in now, the fiscal year that we're in now, starting June 1st, 2024, and ending June 30, 2025. Now, when the fires happen, those happen halfway in the middle of the year. So the relief that you get and you see on this notice of assessed value change will be a blending of those two values. Next slide, please. And here's what that looks like. So we take your original value from before the fire for the first half of the year, from July 1st through January 7th. And then we have your relief value from the fires to June 30, 2025. And we take 50% of each of those and blend them together. In this example, we see a structure that was 100% destroyed. And we did a reduction of 35% to the land. And you see an original value of $7 million on for the 2024 assessment. And then the new value with full relief of 3.4 million, all of it allocated to the land. So no value to the improvements because the structure was 100% reduced. But on that 2024 adjusted tax assessment, what you'll see is a blended value, a blend of those two values. So in this case, about $5.2 million. And that reflects, again, what happened in 2024, not the full amount of relief. So if your question is, why is my property was completely destroyed? Why doesn't it show, why doesn't this notice of assessed value change show 100% reduction to the improvement, to the structures? That's the reason, because this 2024 assessed value is a blend of the two. Next slide, please. So for 2025, that's next fiscal year, starting July 1st, 2025, you will see that full relief come into play. So for your October tax bill, that first installment, you will see that new assessed value of land. And then again, if your property was fully destroyed, $0 on the improvement, and your full relief will be realized into the next tax year. Now the question is, we do have a video for this on our website. You can go to assessor.lacounty.gov. On that homepage, there's a link for misfortune and calamity. You can click on that link and get to this video fairly easily. It's a short video, about 7 minutes, and it fully explains this notice and the blending of the values. Next slide, please. I also wanted to point out that we do have a way for you to check your misfortune and calamity claim status. Again, most of you have received, if your property had damage or was destroyed, most of you will have already received an assessment. You can go to our website, just go to assessor.lacounty.gov. In that very first banner, you see misfortune calamity claim status. You can click on the property search tool. If you know your parcel number, or you can use your property address, you can enter it in. Next slide, and it will show you what the status of your claim is. You see there in the circle, it is showing a misfortune and calamity status of approved in this particular parcel. Next slide. And you will then see the two values, the 2024 current roll value, that blended value that I was talking about, and next year's value, the 2025 roll preparation, showing the full extent of the relief. Very easy to get to on our webpage right up front. If you know your parcel number or your address, you can enter it and quickly get to your claim status on the website. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's really what I wanted to get out there and communicate. If you have questions on this, again, we have a nice video that shows what these notices look like and how we got to your value. But you can also call our regional assessor's office, either in our West District office. Our Palisades number is right there, 310-665-5300. Our East District office for the Eaton fire, 626-258-6001. And we will have staff available to help you out. Or you can visit our website, assessor.lacounty.gov, and the disaster relief pages are very visible and readily available. We have staff available on the call. If you have questions, you can put them in the Q&A, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Scott. And next we will move on to the Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department. We have Acting Captain Ethan Marquez. Ethan, you're unmuted. Please go ahead.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Do we have the PowerPoint?
They are, yes. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I would just like to put this up. This was a map of the when we had the area closed off. I know this, if you go back to the first slide. And this just shows the red line shows the area that was shut off. You weren't able to get in to the area prior or without being either utility company or law enforcement or firefighters or somebody that had proper. There was just those are the people that were first responders that were coming into the area. And I know there's been a lot of questions about the National Guard being there. We still do have the National Guard in Altadena, but their mission has changed into more of a security function rather than road closures. And I also want to stress that I know that it's been reported heavily in the media that the burglaries have increased along with our theft. But those crimes are still happening even though the area was shut down. The people that are going to take opportunities to commit these kind of crimes, we're finding ways around our checkpoints, even as far as using electric motorcycles to get around us on the hillsides to come in the back way. So we are trying everything we could at the time when the fires, we had the full shutdown, the full closure of Altadena. However, we still had people in the area and we were still having burglaries while it was shut down. So I just want to stress that. And we go to the next slide. We opened up the area in January, and when we did that, we started an innovative program called the Altadena Home Check Program. And currently we have approximately 600 homes, and we've done over 14,000 checks of the homes. We've also conducted numerous burglary and crime suppression operations, and we have numerous deputies driving around and being proactive and law enforcement. We've also have currently an extra 19 deputies at Altadena on overtime that are here to conduct proactive policing, and arrests are increased tremendously. So normally in a normal shift, we'll have anywhere from 5 to 15 extra deputies per shift. And that's just a briefing, a picture of a briefing that we did while we were opening up Altadena. Can you go to the next slide, please? So there's been a lot of questions about the burglaries, and normally we would normally have something in the area of 6 burglaries a month in Altadena, and that was the 2024 stats. And right now we're seeing it close to 41, but that's also trimmed a lot higher because of the tremendous amount of burglaries we had on the onset of the fires. As soon as the fires occurred, we believe that a lot of the opportunists came into the area and really hit us pretty hard before we were able to close down Altadena. But like I stressed earlier, we still were having burglaries while the area was closed. And we can go to the next slide. So we do know that there's a lot of things we're concerned about. We are being proactive in how we're looking towards the future. And so these are some, I'm sorry. So these are some of the issues we're concerned about. Obviously, our crime suppression concerns are burglaries, trespassing, fraud and forgery, identity theft, construction fraud. We're going to have, we know we're going to have the opportunity, people are going to come in to try to steal construction equipment or supplies. We're going to have neighbor disputes as the rebuild occurs. Contractor versus homeowner disputes, those happen routinely as builds are occurring. Legal dumping, we've already seen some of those issues. One of the major concerns we have are squatting issues and homelessness in the area. Mental health issues will likely increase, and then we also have to continue to plan for future fires. The debris and mud flows when we get a large amount of rain, and possibility of earthquakes. We're already seeing earthquakes happen again, and we always need to be prepared for that. The next slide, please. So some of the things we're doing is and one of the things we have to remind people is that we have some contractors tell us, oh, we think that there was something stolen from our truck or something that happened, but they tell us maybe a day later or a couple days later. And the best thing to do is, obviously, if you see crime occurring, to call 911. If you want to report something, or maybe you want to report a crime that happened to you, but it's not an emergency or a priority at the time, you can call the business line, and I posted it right next to at the top of the PowerPoint. But we also have our home check program. And please, if your home is vacant and you're waiting for maybe some smoke mitigation to occur, or you're dealing with your insurance company and you don't feel comfortable moving back in at the moment, email us at altadenahomecheck@lest.org, and we'll put you on a list. And what we do is routinely check the properties. Like I said, we have 19 extra deputies here just on our PM shift, and we send those deputies out to check the homes that are on the home check program, as well as conduct proactive policing. So some of the crime suppression operations I've talked a little bit about in social media. Some of the news outlets have done stories about them. We're routinely doing those. We also have undercover operations where we have detectives come in from our major detective bureaus. They come in to help us out. We're working right now with nonprofits and community groups in the area to build volunteers. We're looking to get corporate donations to help out to conduct trespassing mitigation, to help people set up barriers to entry so that their house can be secured from trespassing, and gives law enforcement an opportunity to arrest people if they do come onto your property. And there's a few things that happen at the Altadena Community Center. I'll go ahead and talk a little bit about that. We're in the process of making a video to publish to the community so they can see what they need to do. But we're looking for volunteers, and we have a number of nonprofits that are building those volunteers now. We're also doing some of the things that you can do for burglary and trespassing suppression is install doorbell cameras, cameras inside your home. If you do have a camera inside your home and you have internet access, set that up to link up with your phone with motion sensors. If you get an alert on your phone and you view it up and it's been activated inside your house, call 911 and we'll respond as an emergency to get there to try to apprehend somebody inside your house. If you do not have internet access, one of the things that we've brainstormed is coming up with game or hunting type cameras that you can post on your property. And then that will also help us if they're motion activated, they have night vision, they don't need internet access, and they give great 4K images and video. And that will help us that will give us the information and the information we need to be able to prosecute somebody that came into your house or on your property. And then also something that we're going to be talking about a lot in the near future is we're going to be installing, and we're in the process of installing 70 new cameras in Altadena to apprehend people that are coming into the area to take opportunities against our community. So that's something that's going to be talked about in the near future, but I'll be happy to talk about it a lot more at the Altadena town hall we're having on Wednesday at the Altadena Community Center. And that's about it, unless there's any questions.
Thank you very much. And next we will move to the universal waste system. We have Matt Blackburn and Michelle Newsham on. Matt, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. So I was asked to be on to answer any questions. Have any questions been submitted that you'd like us to address, or we can talk a little bit about where we're at in the process?
Sure, we'll go through questions in a little bit, but did you have any general update or overview?
No, I mean, I can run through real quick. So to date, we have closed out, refunded, and credited 3,713 accounts that were affected by the fire. We've only received about 1,200 communications from customers for closures. The rest were done by our on-site auditing staff that went out and audited and closed. We've issued 2,400 credits. Some customers hadn't quite paid. Over 600 checks have gone out for customers that had paid in advance that have been credited. And we've so far responded to about 1,200 residents that had lost, stolen, or damaged carts where their house was not destroyed by the fire, but was damaged, or carts were stolen or lost during the wind events. And those are all current and up to date. Other than that, I'll be happy to answer questions when it comes to it. I don't want to take up too much time. So.
Wonderful. Thank you for that, Matt. And we'll move to the last speaker from the McChrystal Group. Chloe, please go ahead.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. And Brittany, if we could just bring up our slides, that'd be great. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, Supervisor Barger, again for having us here today. Thanks to everyone listening in. So my name is Chloe Height. I work with the McChrystal Group, and I'm here again this week to share information about the 2 remaining community listening sessions that we're hosting, focused on gathering community member input regarding emergency alert and evacuation procedures during the recent Eaton fire. So these sessions are part of the independent review that our McChrystal Group team is conducting after being retained by Los Angeles County to assess emergency alert and evacuation procedures during both the Eaton and Palisades fires. So this review was commissioned, as some of you may remember, following a board motion in January 2025 that was led by Supervisor Barger and Supervisor Horvath. So I know some of you attended the session that was being held this Saturday on the 26th. So for those of you who might be interested, just a little bit of background. The sessions are specifically designed to spark discussion and gather your feedback and input about what would have improved your experience with emergency alerts and evacuation procedures during the Eaton fire. So these sessions are designed to really capture your input through a blend of facilitated small and large group discussion that's really designed to allow everyone time and space to reflect and share their experience. So it's our goal in these sessions to hear about your experience with specifically related to emergency alert and evacuations, because that will inform our recommendations for improvements to those systems going forward as part of our assessment. So with that in mind, for anyone wondering, I just want to clarify that these are listening sessions only. They're not information sessions. We can't provide updates or answer questions about incident response or recovery because our team was not involved in those efforts. But want to provide a space for people to share their feedback and their input so that it can inform our findings and recommendations, and so that you can feel like your voice is heard. So how to participate? Again, want to extend a note of thanks to the community members who came out and shared their time and their feedback with us on Saturday. For those who would like to participate in one of our upcoming sessions, we're offering two additional opportunities to participate, one live and in person that's being hosted at First AME next Saturday on the 3rd of May from 11 to 1:30. And then you'll see that we also have a virtual option to join as well on May 7th from 6 to 8 p.m. So in both of those sessions, to make sure we can hear from as many people as possible and make it as accessible as possible for people, we're providing ASL and Spanish interpretation. And then we know that it can be painful and traumatic and emotional to recover and recount some of these experiences. So we know we want to provide that resource of having Department of Mental Health staff available and on site in person and in the meeting on the 7th to be there as a support for you so that you feel like you have a resource within the session. If we can shift to the next slide, please. So registration information for both the live and virtual sessions is displayed on this slide and has been made available through a range of different channels. So I know it's on the County Joint Information Center's website, and I know it's been circulated on Nextdoor and various other social media platforms in the past couple of weeks. We just ask that you please register to help us plan effectively for your participation. I know that it's a session open to the public, so if you can't register, that's okay. Feel free to just show up. But do know that it just helps us plan for how many folks to have there to help facilitate. And I know sometimes QR codes can be challenging depending on if you're joining from your phone. So I will drop links to register in the chat as well for anyone who might be having trouble with the QR codes here. And then on the next slide, if we can shift, please, Brittany. For anyone who's unable to attend, just wanted to make sure that you know that there's an option for you as well. So if you can't attend a session or you prefer not to provide this type of input in a live session, but you still have feedback you'd like to share, we also have a survey available where you can share that input similar to what we were discussing and collecting in the sessions. So the QR code to access that is shown on this slide. You'll also see at the very, this might be an old deck. At the very bottom, I will drop it in the chat. There's a email where you can reach us. It's lac.aar.inquiries@mccrystalgroup.com. I'll put that in the chat for folks. So really appreciate those of you who came out on Saturday. Would love to see more of you. I think we have about 80 people registered and would love to have anybody else who'd like to attend on the 3rd join us. And then I know we have many people registered to join us virtually. So would love to hear you and make sure your voice is heard and captured. I'll put the links to register and the link to reach out to us in the chat. Otherwise, I'll monitor for questions. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, Chloe. Now we will move to the question and answer portion of the evening. The following questions were submitted ahead of tonight's community meeting, and we will answer as many of them as we can in the allotted time. As a reminder, you can find answers to frequently asked questions on the website, which is recovery.lacounty.gov/Altadena. Zoom participants can also submit questions in real time using the Q&A function at the bottom of your screen. So for those of you are on YouTube and would like to submit a question, please hop over onto the Zoom meeting using the QR code that's on your screen now. And our first question is for Jennifer Torres with the Water District. The question is, for standing structures in the burn zone, is it recommended to turn off the water until the system is repressurized to reduce the chance of pipes leaking?
So currently Lincoln Avenue Water Company is fully pressurized. We do recommend, if you do not want to get billed for the standby charge, to have the water turned off temporarily until you're prepared to reconnect it.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Jennifer. The next question is going to be for Dave Ford. What is the status of SoCal Edison infrastructure improvements?
Thank you so much for the question. It's always good to be here on this call. So we're in the process of, just a week or so ago, we just announced that we will be undergrounding 40 miles of circuit miles in Altadena in the high wildfire area, an additional 23 miles of circuit miles outside of the high wildfire area. That process is still being in design and moving forward toward implementation of undergrounding. We're still a long ways out from actually completing that project. It's going to take a while to complete. As you know, this was a pretty massive spread of fire throughout the community, but our commitment is to, in our restoration process, is to restore and build back better our infrastructure in Altadena community.
All right, thank you. And next we'll go to Colonel Avichal. The question is, per guidelines, the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are to only remove debris from the footprint of structures and marked trees. However, many of us have unmarked dead fruit trees and items not within the footprint that needs debris removal. What advice can homeowners get regarding this?
Thanks for the question, and I just wanted to clarify, we are not just removing trees within the ash footprint. What we're removing as part of this program is hazard trees, and hazard trees have 3 criteria, right? So first criteria is that they have to be at least 6 inches in diameter. Second criteria is that they have to be tall enough so that if they were to fall, they would fall on an improved structure. So that could be your future home, or it could be your neighbor's home, or even the right of way. So that's the second criteria. And then the third criteria is that a certified arborist has to deem that the tree will die within 5 years. So again, that's those. If your tree meets any of those 3 or all 3 of those criteria, then it's considered a hazard tree, and the Corps of Engineers will remove it. If it does not meet those criteria and it still needs to be removed, then my advice might be to try and do it with your private insurance, or it may have to be an out-of-pocket expense. Thanks.
Thank you. And next we'll go to the assessor's office. We have Scott is still on. So the question is, some single family homeowners are considering selling our properties to other families instead of to the open market. Can those homes be grandfathered into the like-for-like rebuild process?
Hi there, it's Amy Bodak from Regional Planning, and I'm happy to take a
Sure.
stab at answering that question first.
Thank you.
So certainly, first of all, I'm sorry if you feel that you need to sell your house because of this, and that you may end up leaving the area. That is certainly something that we are sorry to hear, and would hope that that is not because of any financial issues that you may be incurring. But if you choose, as I understand it, if you choose to sell to a family member and you're not the original owner, it actually does not matter. The person who owns the property, if they wish to construct a similar size, bulk, height, they do qualify for the like-for-like rebuild. So in this instance, if you're going to sell your property to a family member, and that family member wishes to reconstruct a home that was pretty much a similar footprint, same size, same square footage, the answer is yes. It is not just restricted to the people who were owners of record at the time of the fire. Hope that answers your question. Thank you.
Amy, I'm going to jump in. This is Nicole White Gamble from the Assessor's Office. I want to qualify that with a couple of things. In this instance, it sounds like the person is saying they own the property, and I'm going to assume if there's no kinship and they just want to sell this to another family, then in that case, they would be reassessed. We wouldn't have the like for like. So if they rebuilt the property, we would actually capture the value, the fair market value of that property when they actually sold it to the other person, even if it wasn't an open market sale. And when the other person builds on the property, then it would be picked up for us, as we would say, new construction or a fair market value at that point in time. I think that Amy's alluding to the fact that if there was a relationship between the people, if they were a parent to child, or if they were grandparent to grandchild in some instances, in that case, what would happen is if they meet all of the requirements, they would actually have to wait to rebuild. In the state of the property being damaged, if they transfer it, unfortunately for our office, then we would have to actually pick up the value in this instance. And I'm assuming again that we're saying we're going to do a transfer for someone who's either not familial, not kinship, or even if they are family members. For Prop 19, there are a series of things that are required for them to actually qualify. And so if the property is not transferred after the current owner rebuilds, we would have to do a reassessment. Unfortunately.
Thank you, Nicole and Amy. And I'm going to turn it back to Supervisor Barger, who's going to respond to some of the questions in the chat about waiving permitting fees.
Yeah, thank you. For those who missed it, I plan to introduce a motion next Tuesday that would create a pilot program to allow for the self-certification during the permitting process. And at my request, our county CEO is working with county departments on the establishment of the Unified Permitting Authority. And the county CEO is also working on procuring technological solutions such as AI that will be combined with our streamlining efforts and the new Unified Permitting Authority. And I'm confident that this approach will reduce the timeline for permit approvals along with reduced staff time and cost for reviews. My motion is also going to have the county's permitting departments reevaluate their previous cost estimates for permit and plan check fees. And once we're equipped with that number, I plan to have the county CEO identify funding to partially or fully offset those fees for the Eaton fire rebuilds. So I just want you to know that we are working on it. And in the county, I'm also looking to a philanthropy to help offset the cost as well. So I hear your question loud and clear, and we are working on it. But I do believe by streamlining, we are going to bring the cost down, and it's going to be far more achievable for us to see how we can fully offset or even partially offset.
Thank you very much for that, Supervisor. And then we'll move to the next question is for the Small Business Administration. Corey Williams is on. The question, Corey, is what are we allowed to use SBA loans for? And do we need to provide receipts?
Yes. So the way the loan works is that if you have a real estate recovery, you can use up to the $500,000 for real estate repair and recovery or rebuilding, and then you have up to $100,000 to use for personal property, which would include any automobiles that may have been damaged. So one of the questions that's come about is that people are getting the funds, but they're wanting to put it into kind of an interest-bearing account. That's perfectly fine. Because there's not really an opportunity right now to build. So at least having those funds readily, at least that first set of the unsecured funds readily available is very important. So that is possible to put that in a separate interest-bearing account for that. But under the loan authorization agreement, to answer the last question about the auditing, receipts are necessary because your file may be audited for up to 3 years. Now, the key thing that I always say is that if you're using it for rebuild and for real estate repair, replacement, and also for your personal property as well as your automobiles, that should be easy. So the one thing we don't want to do is have use this for Super Bowl tickets or buying tickets for the Olympics or, doing something that's not authorized by your loan authorization agreement, because it will clearly state what the funds are to be used for. Thank you.
Thank you for that. And the next question is going to go to either Public Health or the Army Corps. The question is, has there been any coordination with LA County Health or the Army Corps of Engineers regarding the draining or covering of stagnant swimming pools at fire vacated properties in Altadena? And can the Army Corps clarify expectations around pool contaminant removal and disposal timelines, especially for the properties receiving final sign-offs with ash and debris still present?
Okay, so I can start with this. So again, we do drain the pools. That's at the homeowner's request, and there's really 2 times that we'd like them to give us this request. So either at the 72-hour call or doing the 360 walkthrough. those are the times when the homeowner should request that their pool be drained. And then in terms of final sign off, again, it's the homeowner's decision. Some homeowners do actually want to keep water in their pools. So it isn't a requirement to have it drained for the final sign off. But again, if you want to have it done, please ask for it at the 72-hour call and the 360 walkthrough. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Colonel. And Dr. Quick, go ahead.
Yeah, and I was going to add, yes, there has been coordination. We do recognize there are potential public health considerations related to these pools right now that are not being maintained, including the potential for mosquitoes and so forth. And so there is work amongst the regulatory agencies, including vector control right now, to be able to address this. And so, yes, that coordination does continue, and we do have information available on our website related to that.
Great, thank you very much. Next, we'll move to the Department of Insurance. We have Rob Edoza on. The question is, will there be restrictions put into place to prevent our insurance carriers from dropping us?
Sure, thank you for the question. So there's already certain protections in place under California law to prevent insurers from dropping homeowners affected by these fires. So for one, right now, there's currently an insurance moratorium due to the declared state of emergency, and that expires January 6, 2026. So you're guaranteed from not being dropped or non-renewed from your insurance carrier until that January 6, 2026 date. And that includes all areas affected by the fires, along with the adjacent zip codes, whether your home was affected by the fires or not. You can verify if you are within those zip codes on our website at insurance.ca.gov. In addition to that, for homes that have suffered a total loss, again, by law, they are guaranteed 2 additional renewals from your insurance company for the rebuilding process. And, after that, if your rebuild is still not been completed, then you can work with your insurance company. They cannot cancel you. They can work with you to adjust and possibly renew it if your rebuild is taking longer than those 2 guaranteed renewals. So that's one thing. And then, after that insurance moratorium expires for all homeowners in those areas on January 6, 2026, leading up to that point, you may want to start getting in contact with your insurance company and seeing, what they are looking for, if there's any improvements on your home that can be made so that you can get a renewal when the time comes. So yeah, we definitely recommend contacting your insurance company and working with them to ensure that you can get a renewal once that insurance moratorium is lifted.
Thank you, Rob. And we'll move to our last question is for public health. The question, Dr. Quick, is for structures that are within the fire zone but sustained no fire damage, can we restart gardening and landscaping? And are there any limitations to these activities?
Very, very good question. We've gotten a lot of questions about home gardening, and in general, there are not any specific restrictions in place, no necessary testing that has to be done, but a couple things to consider here. If you're in an area where you have a lot of ash and soot impact, there's things that you can think about for your soil to make that potentially less of an impact. Some individuals do want to consider soil testing on their property, and we urge people to probably the best route is to essentially work with an environmental consultant to get answers as to what's best for your property. Specific for gardening and fruit trees, let me just spend a second to talk about that, and I know we're almost at time. In general, produce that's grown on a tree is safe to use. We ask folks to rinse off the fruit before you consume it. In general, that would be because there could be potential ash and soot on the outside of it. For a home garden, you can consider a raised garden bed if you're very concerned, or you have soil contamination. If you are gardening outside and you have things like lettuce, good to take the outer layers off of that. Any other sort of produce, it's good to wash that before eating, but in general, it is still safe to garden. We do have, again, information on the public health website related to gardening and things that can be done there. And I spoke very fast, but I wanted to get that in before we're at time.
Wonderful. Thank you. And thank you everyone for joining us. That's all the time we have today. Again, for those of you on Zoom, when you exit this meeting, please provide your email address if you'd like to receive follow-up information. For more information, you can visit your local disaster recovery center or find us online at recovery.lacounty.gov/Altadena. Many of your questions may be answered in the frequently asked questions. That concludes the presentation for today, and we will leave it open just for ASL and Spanish to finish their interpretation. Have a wonderful evening, everyone.